Warning, the Dub Talk podcast contains language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. There will be spoilers for the film discussed in this episode. Please use caution in case you haven't seen it yet. Finally, the opinions expressed are those of the individual participants and may not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Enjoy the show. Hello, well and all, and welcome to a new episode of Dub Talk. That's right, it is that time of year again. It's time for another season of Summer at the Movies. And boy oh boy, do we have a movie here for you today. I'm Amon, and this is my good friend Lac.
Come on and slam and welcome to the jam.
Precisely. And as you might have been able to tell from that reference, we're going to be talking about some basketball today. I know what you're thinking. Sports? On my Weeb podcast?
Yeah.
What is this?
Let's not act like most anime fans don't love this thing anyway, so, you know.
Yeah, it is funny to me that was the stereotype for so long, and now that I feel like I know more anime fans, they're like, wait a minute, a bunch of you just already like sports.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Exactly, yeah.
My friend who's currently just devouring his way through One Piece is also, like, the biggest Celtics fan I know. It's like, who are we trying to kid here? Oh, my, how the stereotypes fail us as we get older.
Well, I mean, it's like I grew up around the University of Maryland, so of course I'm a Terps fan, obviously.
And for those of you at home who don't know, I'm from Boston, and I'm not directly related to, like, super hardcore Boston sports people, but, like, it's in the air.
Right.
Like, you have opinions whether you want to or not.
Right.
But what sport are we talking about exactly? Well, I am happy to ask you about that.
Let's go through the entire history of basketball. No.
So what are we talking about? Why, we are talking about a wonderful little movie that came out a couple of years ago, and got a theatrical release over here last year and is now finally available on home video for all of our viewing pleasures. We are talking about, of course, as you probably saw from the title, The First Slam Dunk. Not only an adaptation of part of Takehiko Inoue's seminal basketball manga, but also his debut as an anime director.
Oh, so he directed this.
He directed this himself, yes.
Oh, that's really neat, actually. So it's an Akira situation.
Pretty much, like, which I'll probably get into some thoughts about that later. But yes, it is The First Slam Dunk. The slightly confusingly named The First Slam Dunk, as it is called that because if you, person at home who's never seen Slam Dunk, doesn't know anything about it, that is fine. The movie will get you up to speed on the basics you need to know. But it is an adaptation of literally the final basketball game in the entire series.
Right. I figured that. Because the main guy of the movie isn't even really the main guy of the manga, right?
No, that is correct. The main guy in the actual series is
red-haired boy, right?
Yes, that's Sakuragi.
Sakuragi, right, yeah.
Sakuragi with the red hair. He's the actual main character, but he's not the main character of this show, which is a different guy who gets introduced like about 50 chapters in.
If anybody who knows me listens to this podcast, I know it's shocking to think that I don't know anything about Slam Dunk, but this one really just fell under my radar as an anime fan. So it's weird for me to say that I really don't know anything about this one, because I love 80s and 90s anime so much, but I really just never got around to this one.
I'm not too surprised in that. Sometimes one of those weird ones where it's always been way more popular in Japan than in the United States, and
right.
Some of that's that its availability was always very inconsistent. I think I read once, like, I don't think the whole series even got a full home video release, because Geneon was putting it out, and they kind of went kaput partway through.
Did they dub it?
I think they dubbed part of it, but partially... I think it was that it wasn't selling very well.
I know there was a Canadian dub. But
yeah, no, they dubbed part of it, but it's not a full series dub, is my recollection. ANN actually did a very nice article recently about kind of the history of Slam Dunk in English. I think it was ANN. I'd recommend looking it up, actually. It's a really nice, informative piece of writing. So check that out if you want more backstory that I would just be cribbing from that anyways. But what is First Slam Dunk about? Well, I gave you a little bit of an idea, but now I'm going to read what is on the back of my nice Blu-ray copy to give you slightly more context. Shohoko's speedster and point guard, Ryota Miyagi, always plays with brains and lightning speed, running circles around his opponents while feigning composure. Born and raised in Okinawa, Ryota had a brother who was 3 years older, following in the footsteps of his older brother, who was a famous local player from a young age. Ryota also became addicted to basketball. In his second year of high school, Ryota plays the Shohoku High School basketball team, along with Sakuragi, Rukawa, Akagi, and Mitsui, as they take the stage at the Inter-High School National Championship, and now They are on the brink of challenging the reigning champions, Sanaho Kogyo High School. The fun thing from my understanding of this is that in Slam Dunk, this is not the final game of this championship. This is like the semifinal.
Okay.
It's just they're against the reigning champion, so like everyone's assumption is that they are going to get their clocks cleaned and not proceed.
They're the underdogs.
Yeah. They're very much the underdogs. I'm a little clear to me what the timeline in Slam Dunk is, but there is a throwaway line where they claim that Sakuragi, who's the viewpoint character in the manga, he basically gets into basketball because a cute girl likes it.
That I actually did know,
her.
because in the movie they do like reanimated clips.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember seeing the clip of him talking about he likes basketball, and that girl was one of the ones in the sidelines, right? She's like the sister
Yes.
of Ogre Boy, right, or something like that.
Yes. Yep. No,
Yeah.
that's their relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
One of many characters in this movie who's very important in the context of the overall story and is a very minor character in the movie that we will not be talking about because they have approximately 5 lines.
It really is like, this one is clearly for the fans. I mean, they try to do their best to make it approachable for anyone, but it really will help if you've actually watched the show.
No, I think even if you've only read like a little bit of the beginning of the manga, it will give you some grounding in who a lot of these like side characters who aren't actually playing the game are.
Yeah.
But obviously, it was picked up by G-Kids. It was dubbed by NYAV Post. Got a theatrical release last year. You can get on Blu-ray now. Lac, do you wanna start talking about this dub and who made it?
Well, I gotta say, NYAV has really been working their asses off these last few years, haven't they?
God damn, they have.
I mean, they are the go-to kind of company for G-Kids at this point.
Yeah, and they're definitely on the short list of like, if Discotech needs to dub something and it's
Right.
not, like a Lupin dub or it needs to be based in LA, they'll go to NYAV Post a lot of the time too.
Yeah, because Lupin the First was even dubbed by NYAV, wasn't it?
I can't remember.
Because Michael Sinterniklaas was the director.
Oh yeah, then it definitely would have been. Like, I think pretty much at this point, like, if he's directing it, it's because it's through his studio. So,
Right,
yeah.
that's what shocked me when it wasn't Richard Epcar, when I found that out.
They like to go with the people who keep turning in good product. Not that Richard doesn't. He just doesn't work with G-Kids, that's all. In that capacity.
They really are kind of the prestigious dubbing company now, because they tend to work with the high-profile companies at this point.
Case in point, when G-Kids got the rights to Boy and the Heron,
Right.
they went to NYAV Post, which there's a fun Variety article where Michael Sinterniklaas talks about, like, we were kind of terrified just because, like, if you fuck this one up, like, you don't live that one down.
Yeah, because it was one of the first Ghibli movies to not be redubbed by Disney.
Actually, I think it was the first, because I think they still had the license when The Wind Rises came out. And
Okay.
I forget who... I don't remember who dubbed Princess Kaguya, but that might have also been a... I don't remember who dubbed that, but this is definitely the first Miyazaki movie from post the Disney era,
Right.
so...
We're not talking about The Boy and the Heron. We don't want to get to
Yes,
sidetracked.
let's not get to... That's a different episode.
I haven't even seen that movie, so I can't really talk about it. Anyway, but yeah, no, they're really knocking it out of the park with all these dubs that they've been doing recently.
Sorry, before I go on, I should say who's working on it. Let me do that first. Directing this dub, we have Michael Sinterniklaas, as we already said, who's known for directing things such as Belle, The Boy and the Heron, and the Magnetic Rose section of Memories. Some additional voice direction was done by Stephanie Shea, who's also done work on Children of the Sea, Goodbye Donglees, and Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Freedom, on Netflix soon, I believe, as of today. And the scripting was done by a Tom Hahn, who I think Welcome to Anime? I could only find one other credit under this name on ANN, which is for like graphics work, so I'm not sure it's the same guy, and there's enough Tom Hans out there that I wasn't entirely sure which was who, so hey, congratulations. Good for you.
Yeah.
Thumbs up, man. Sorry I couldn't find a headshot for you for the episode. Anyways, without the way, you were saying.
Yeah, they've been really knocking it out of the park. The acting is really subtle. I really like the subtle parts of this dub. They do say yo a lot in this dub, which I thought was weird. But I guess that's probably just a translation thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really going to fault them for that, even though I was like, they're saying yo a lot in this thing. But yeah, there's a lot of broad characters in this thing. You've got like some more subtle, more human characters, and then you've got some more over-the-top characters like Sakuragi, who we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find that good balance of like, how do you approach this? Especially because this is a very grounded approach to this story.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very not anime. So how do you do that? And I I really appreciate a lot of the subtle little quirks they put into this thing. I will say, sometimes it was a little hard to follow. And not just because I didn't know the series, but kind of the timeline jumping around. Like, I had the same problem with Dunkirk as I did with this movie. But, yeah, overall, I actually really enjoyed it. It definitely felt like a G-Kids dub. I'll say that. Mm-hmm. It definitely felt like a Michael Sinterniklaas directed dub. So...
I'd agree with that. I mean, like we were talking earlier, like I think G-Kids have pretty consistently shown themselves to be like a really solid, good studio. Like, I know Michael, I think, tends to be kind of like, it's technically his company. He tends to direct a lot of them. But, Michael and Stephanie have both proven themselves repeatedly, especially over the last few years, I think, to be like really top-notch directors. Like, they hire good writers. They're, I don't know too much about the casting process they do, but I've heard little bits and pieces in like interviews and commentaries and so on, and they clearly put a lot of effort into trying to find good actors, especially, and not just from the kind of local pools. We'll get into this later, but there's a few people here who, as far as I can tell, like, these are basically their anime debuts, as far as I can tell. They've done VO and other things, but like, this is the first anime they've been cast in.
Go Team Venture.
Exactly.
That one was for you, the two Venture Brothers fans listening.
Well, there's three. I'm a Venture Brothers fan. I technically count.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
I've definitely had that moment of, like, before I could identify actors very well, of like, wait, where do I know this voice? Is that Team Venture?
Yep.
What's he doing here? Does he do anime? Anyways.
Kappa Mikey. Anyway. It is funny to think that the voice of Kappa Mikey is doing these dubs.
I know, right? Irony of ironies.
But no, he's great. I mean, he directed Berserk 97, which is like one of my favorite anime of all time. But yeah, no, this is overall a lot of fun. And it's actually really impressive because I'm assuming a lot of this was not local. Like, a lot of this was like remote directing.
I think so. There's a little, if you get the Blu-ray, there's a little like making a featurette where they do show footage of a couple of the leads in the studio, like doing their roles. But it's just like three of them because, like, I think the people who are LA-based did it in studio, and I think a lot of other people either did remote, or if they're close enough to New York, I think they might have gone up to the New York studio. But I know at least one of the leads, I think, was done entirely remote because he's based in Atlanta. And I think all of his recording was done remotely.
The fact that you can get such a quality dub with such remote direction is really a testament to how interesting the industry is now.
It's been a fascinating time to live through where, like, not being limited by geographical space has just gradually become, like, that doesn't need to be a problem anymore. Like, you're based elsewhere? Like, no, we can work with that.
As long as you have the right tech, you're good.
Yeah, like, do you have a decent studio and, like, a strong enough internet connection that, like, real-time direction can be done? Like, we can make something happen. That's great.
That's why I'm trying to build a booth in my basement.
Hell yeah, man.
One day, I'm going to be in one of these cast lists. I'm going to fight for it.
The first Dub Talk episode, River has to recuse themselves because they're in the show.
I don't think Steph's going to want me in that episode. But
no.
Man can dream. But yeah, no, overall, this is really good. I mean, it's cool to see something like this actually be... It's cool in general to just see Slam Dunk dubbed, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
For such an iconic franchise, it's funny how little it's actually been dubbed in English.
I'm just saying, like, I if they make like a remake at some point in the future, or we get a like a redub of the older show, because like I said, I don't think the dub for that from when it first came over got finished.
Yeah,
I'd be very happy to see this cast come back. Like,
I mean, if this movie did well, I could see G-Kids actually getting the rights to the old one.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, because they did Future Boy Conan, for God's sake.
Yeah. I think as long as it's not too long and it's something I think they can market, like, because they also picked up like the Blue Water thing that Hideki Anno.
Yeah, Nadia in the Blue Water.
Thank you, that's what it was, Nadia. Yeah, so like if they think it'll move units and preferably it's not like 150 episodes or something, I think that is potentially a thing that could happen. I would not be against seeing that personally.
Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, I'm not holding my breath, but it would be cool.
Yeah, we can fantasize and have a nice time with that. One other thing I did want to point out, because I think I ran into planning this is like, not that this is a dialogue light movie, but obviously, about 50% of it is just a basketball game.
Right. It was bizarre. It, like, halfway through the movie, I was like, is this game the whole movie?
It's the whole movie.
I have never seen a sports movie do this before. This is really weird.
No, those are the stakes. This is the game. There's no turning back now.
Yeah. We're in the end game now.
Exactly. But because of that, a thing I wanted to highlight that I heard them talking about in the commentary, you might know this term better because I know you do a lot. You actually do VO. The efforts, like kind of the grunts and sounds you make that aren't like dialogue.
I mean, I just know it as wah-wah, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of those aspects of a show like this that doesn't necessarily get thought that much about by the audience.
Right.
But kind of once it got pointed out, it's like they put a lot of effort into making this sound like they're really out there playing basketball. Like, it sounds really authentic and seamless.
Yeah, but what's great about something like this, where it's an anime about basketball, is there's a universality to basketball, where an American actor can approach it exactly the same way a Japanese actor does. Aside from, like, different words, it all translates exactly the same. You're going to get the exact same experience being an American playing basketball as you are a Japanese person playing basketball. It leads into that, and it helps, like, visualize exactly how you're supposed to approach the acting of this sort of thing.
No, absolutely. Like, technically, like, I can't sing the praises of this dub enough. Like, I think it's just really well put together. And again, there's not a lot in the way of, like, showy speeches or anything. Right. A lot of it is just, like, it's a real game that most of the audience probably has everyone's seen at least, like, one basketball game at some point in their life, probably. Yeah. If you're from, like, the United States, at least. So, like, you know what that is like in some way.
Right.
And I just think this does such a wonderful job of capturing that. So, especially because, it's a very grounded story, and the animation is very consciously, like, realistic in a lot of ways. Like, it's just really, really well put together.
The characters aren't, like, super anime boys like Kuroko no Basuke. Yeah. I say that as someone who really likes Kuroko no Basuke.
No, it's very much like, this is definitely the basketball manga by a guy who, like, his other big series is basically, like, a fictionalized biography of Miyamoto Musashi. I think that's who Vagabond's about.
Oh, okay. God, he did... Wow, how did I not know that he was the creator of Vagabond? Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, no, he's Vagabond because he's not Blade of the Immortal. And those are the two that always sync up in my mind.
I mean, I can see the style definitely bleeding through.
Yeah, he has another one called Reel, which is all about, probably an actual term for it, but like wheelchair basketball.
I think that's really what it's just called.
Yeah, no, just man loves sports and history, apparently. Good for him.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on, like, the technical side?
Nah, I think we covered pretty much everything.
All right. Well, let's get on to our first cast section. This cast section is going to be a little scattershot just because there's a lot of, as you said, there's a fairly long manga. There's a lot of side characters who aren't, they're important to the overall story, but for this, like, one game, they are sideline characters who get a few lines. So we're not going to talk about too many of them just because...
It's a very, it's that guy kind of thing.
If you've read the manga, you'll definitely recognize all the, like, miscellaneous characters in the stands, but for the purpose of this 2-hour movie, they're not super important. But let's talk about a couple who are. First up, we have Kiminobu Kogoro. He is another member of the Shohoku High School team. He's the vice captain. This guy in glasses. We have Ayako, who is the manager of the Shohoku High School basketball team. The nice lady in the basketball hat with hair. We have Mitsuyoshi Anzai, who is the older gentleman who's technically the coach. From my understanding, like, his backstory is, like, he was, like, a big-name athlete in his youth, and this is how he kind of spends his, like...
they name-dropped that in the movie.
You know how all Japan was your glory days? Well, these are mine. Yeah, exactly. So, he's a very amiable dude. He doesn't seem like he's much, but, he knows how to coach. Don't let his appearance fool you. And going over to the other side of the court, we have Goro Domoto, who is the coach of the Sano Kogyo High School, our opponents for this game. He looks like Ted Lasso's evil twin is kind of my description.
He kind of looks like my dad, actually. The whole time I was looking at him, I was like, this guy kind of looks like my dad.
You know what? That sounds about right. A lot of the people in this feel like they could look like someone
Yeah.
And so, like, it's like, he definitely looks like somebody's dad. I believe that. Playing them, we have Kogure is played by Zeno Robinson, for such roles as Gamma 2 and Dragon Ball Superhero.
How do you not know Zeno at this point, honestly?
Yeah, I know. That's a good question, actually. It's like, if you follow this, I feel like you must know who Zeno is. Hayato Matsura in Josei the Tiger and the Fish, and Taiga Kagami in Kokoro's Basketball, the movie Last Game.
More basketball!
Because if they're in Kokoro's Basket, I'm going to try and make note of that just because I find it funny how much overlap there is between these very, very, very different basketball series.
Right.
Ayako is being played by Kelsey Jaffer, and this may technically be her anime debut.
I've never...
No, the only other credited anime role I could see was a role in Game World Reincarnation, and I don't have a good enough sense of, like, kind of when those two got recorded that I'm not sure which came first. But yeah, hey, welcome to anime. She also has a few other roles. She plays, a few other things she's done is she plays Yao Yao in Genshin Impact, so she's part of that part of the voice acting world.
Oh, okay. She's a Hoyo actress.
Exactly. And she was also Ayla in Punishing Gray Raven, which appears to be another sort of mobile game that I'm not familiar with. Mitsuyoshi Anzai is being played by Mike Pollock, who I also probably don't have to explain to any of you people listening who Mike Pollock is.
Of course.
If you need to know, he has such roles as Masahiro Hashimoto in Liz and the Bluebird, Dr. Hell in Mazinger Z Infinity, and he's the bookstore owner in The Night is Short Walk-On Girl, a personal favorite of mine, and a lot of you also probably know him as being Eggman, and that's a bunch of Sonic stuff. He's that guy. And Goro Domoto is being played by Mark Thompson, who is known for such roles as Masaki Azumi in Children of the Sea, Izor and Makuya When the Promised Flower Blooms, and he's Kid Muscle in Ultimate Muscle.
The new one?
No, the old one.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, right?
Well, I guess it makes sense. New York, so...
Yeah. No, I pulled that out just because it's like, wait, really? Because I also like, wait, like the new one?
Yeah.
No, he's from the one that was on TV when I was a kid? Oh, wow.
Yeah, the 4Kids dub. Wow, that's crazy.
Wacky, right?
But I guess that makes sense. Michael Saternicus worked at 4Kids.
This is always the fun part about a lot of G-Kids dubs, is like you see that connection come through. There's nothing more amusing to me than like, G-Kids gets like a fairly like serious artistic
prestigious
movie.
Anime, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, prestigious, and you'll hear some like great performance in it, and you'll look up who it is, and it's like, oh wait, I know this person from like Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. All these 4Kids actors like elevated to G-Kids, and it's really funny.
From 4Kids to G-Kids.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good time.
Yeah, overall, I'd say these are all strong performances for what little they're given.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I repeat myself a lot when we're talking about these kind of characters.
Yeah.
But there really isn't that much to say. I mean, Mike Pollock was kind of interesting in his performance, where it's very subtle, very soft.
Mm-hmm.
I would say everybody did their jobs well here, overall.
No, that's kind of my feeling I have about a lot of these side characters, is this is tone-wise, this is not a very out there movie. Like, it's
right.
it's a very grounded sports anime. A lot of these are clearly playing people who are meant to feel like real people. And, unless you're given a big sort of monologue-y type spot, often what you're aiming for isn't necessarily, I don't want to say unmemorable, but a lot of it is like sounding like a real person in a real situation. Which is often one of those things where, like, if you do it badly, it stands out, and if you do it well, it often, like, you don't think about it quite as much because they kind of did the job.
Mm.
It's like, good traditional cinematography in a movie, it's supposed to be invisible, and so unless you're thinking about it on purpose, it often doesn't stand out on its own.
Yeah, nobody in this group was going like, whoa,
Exactly. Yeah, we'll talk about the one guy who gets to do that later on. Across the board, I thought they all did a good job. Like, again, like, these are all people, like, you put them, if, like, the series gets redubbed or something, you put these in those characters, I think these would be great. Like, they sound right. They sound like they're doing a good job with the material they're given.
Right, yeah.
This is a 2-hour movie with a lot of invisible backstory, so, they're not the focus of the story
right.
anyways.
The fact that I don't really remember these characters that well has nothing to do with the performances.
Yeah, no. I did not take the time to time out how many lines anybody had, but I'm sure for some of these people, like, their total line spoken probably doesn't crack 5 minutes, just because this is if nothing else, just because I think a lot of this movie is, basketball, so there's not that much talking to begin with.
A lot of this movie is just Ryota's sucky life, mostly, so...
just this kid's terrifying, horrible backstory.
Yeah, I mean, like, fucking Grave of the Fireflies wasn't half as depressing as some of the stuff he went through, jeez.
Jeez, kids, can you lighten up?
Yeah, kids, can you lighten up a little? I exaggerate for comedic effect. Yeah, what else is there to say, honestly? I mean, it's always fun to see these actors. It's really cool that Mark Thompson was here. That's kind of cool.
No, definitely.
Like you said, it's really cool when 4Kids actors show up in these things.
Like, sometimes I see these and, like, I don't want to reduce it to just, like, I'm glad they got a paycheck, but often it's like, you got to show up, you did a good job.
Yeah, it is a paycheck, you know.
I'm not going to sneer at that. Voice acting is hard work. I'm glad when actors I like get paid.
Yeah, no, you got to take what you can sometimes.
And, like, hey, if you get to be part of a great movie, I'm sure that feels good no matter how big or small your role is. So.
Yeah, if I was one of these characters, if I got invited to the premiere, I'd be happy about that at least. So,
oh, hell yeah, right?
Yeah, I get to watch anime on the big screen. That's cool.
Oh, yeah, definitely. With that, do we want to move on to our next set of characters who are a little meatier?
The depressing part of the movie. All right, yeah.
All right. So next up, we have the Miyagis, as basically as they are living sort of in flashback times when Ryota is a kid and sort of teenage years, a little before he starts being an actual basketball player. First up, we have Ryota Miyagi, but as like a little kid, basically. He has enough of his own stuff that I felt we should talk about him separately from his teenage actor later.
Absolutely. I definitely want to talk about
We have him mostly like when he's a little kid, mostly living in Okinawa with his family. We have his older brother, Sota, who's like his dude. He's like a basketball star in the family. Everybody loves him, and one day he goes out on a fishing boat, and he does not come back.
You can't be that loved in life without dying early, so...
No, it's, like, I didn't know a lot about Slam Dunk, but you think even before, like, not that the movie tries to hide it, but it's like, oh, something bad's gonna happen to him.
No one this lucky in life can live very long.
It's like, I've seen a sports drama, I know how this works.
I've watched Speed Racer.
Precisely.
He comes back as Baller X.
Anyways, we also have Kaoru Miyagi, who is their mom. She is a struggling single mother, basically just trying to make her way through life, following both the death of her husband before the movie and her eldest son during the movie. And just trying really hard to try and give a good life to her kids, despite everything they've all collectively been through. And their younger sister, Anna, who's a somewhat precocious child who asks a lot of pointed questions periodically. Alright, playing these actors, young Ryota is being played Mitchell Taylor, who, once again, as far as I can tell, welcome to Anime Mitchell. He apparently is based in Virginia.
Virginia? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, no, Michael's talking, there's a commentary track on the movie, and Michael was talking a lot about it. I think he's based in Virginia. He's done a little bit of commercial VO and theater.
Makes sense.
And the one like fiction thing I could tell that it wasn't like a podcast or something is that he did some VO work for a show called Gizmo Go, which apparently is like a Superbook spinoff.
Okay, that makes sense, because usually they do get kid actors for that sort of thing.
Yeah, so that was fascinating to me. Sota is being played by Adam MacArthur, who, you all know him because he's Yuji in Jujutsu Kaisen. But some other roles that he's done that I've enjoyed are Roma Komagawa in Goodbye Donglese, Taiyo Tsukaba in The Orbital Children, and Prince in Sing a Bit of Harmony. Kaoru is being played by Alison Packard, who among other roles has played Hitomi Kasugi in Lupin the Third vs. Cat's Eye.
Hey, cool.
Yeah, right. She's Black Maria in One Piece, and she's Hinaichi in The Vampire Dies in No Time. And Anna is being played by Kinley Moody, who, once again, welcome to anime! She's done a little bit of other VO work, mostly... From ones I was able to scrape together she plays the characters of young Alana in Kinnar in the dub of Sri Ashi, which is like it's like an Indian action movie, I believe. And she plays the character of Ava in Bedtime Defenders, which is like a kids' YouTube shorts series of some variety.
I might have tried out for that.
There you go.
I don't know for sure, but I know I tried out for some kids show on TikTok one time, a couple years back, so that might have been it.
There you go. See, this is the fun part about doing episodes with you. You interact with a whole VO sphere that the rest of us, I don't think, really engage with that much, so I appreciate it. It's interesting.
But,
yeah, how do we feel about the Miyagis and their sad life?
Jokes aside, they all gave really good performances, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Mitchell Taylor, who, coming out first swing, like, he did a great job as young Ryota.
Yeah, like, put that kid in more stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I know child VO can often be kind of a dicey proposition, but, like, he sounds really good.
Yeah, he knew exactly what he... Well, Michael Saturniclis and Stephanie Shea seem to work really well with kids when it comes to dubs. Yeah. I've seen them work with kids before, and they always get pretty good performances out of kids. So I don't know what they do, but If they ever do another Full Metal Alchemist and need a kid actor, just give it to G-Kids, honestly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, my fun fact about this that Michael mentioned in the commentary is when Ryota is mad at Sota because Sota has skipped playing basketball with him to go work, basically. You know, we the audience have put together this is probably the last time he's going to see him. And as the boat's leaving, Ryota, yells at him and tells him how much he hates him. And apparently, the insults he uses were all things Mitchell just improvised on the spot.
That's really fun, actually.
And they're, really good little kid, not swears, but, kind of mean things to say, so...
I wonder if Mitchell actually has, a brother or something.
I would not be surprised, just because, that felt like it was coming from a very, authentic place. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and, everybody else is really good, too. Anna MacArthur is really good in the short scenes he's as Soda. Keelan Moody, again, short scenes, but... she's very good as Anna. And Alison Packard is really heartbreakingly good as Kalru.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's kind of one of the standout performances in this thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. She has a lot of, emotional work to do in this movie, and I think she does it beautifully. This is... So much of the emotional through line of this movie is Ryota and Kaoru's relationship, and I think she just handles her half of that wonderfully.
Yeah, the scene where she's taking down all of Soda's memorabilia... Ooh, between her and Mitchell Taylor's performances are just phenomenal. That is the standout scene of the whole movie.
Oh, that one just hurts.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know anything about Slam Dunk, you can feel the weight of what's happening.
Yeah, that's definitely a moment where you don't need to know the show to appreciate what's going on.
Yeah, no, they're just really stand out. I don't know if I want a standalone movie about their lives because it would probably be a pretty heavy domestic drama. I don't know how much I want to watch that per se.
I mean, we practically already did with this movie anyway. So,
I know, but they're definitely a cast that you could probably put them in their own movie and they could easily carry that by themselves.
I mean, yeah, we've had Stranger manga spinoffs, so
That's true. Fair point.
To have a Slam Dunk spinoff that has nothing to do with basketball.
It's like when they tried to sell GTO had a previous series.
Yes,
about that.
GTO was a sequel, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was something like that, but they tried to sell it in America as GTO the early years, and it's I don't know if Americans who like the Funny Teacher series are gonna want this 80s delinquent comic. I don't think the audience is quite there.
It's a whole Dragon Ball Z situation, kind of.
Exactly. Mitchell and Allison feel kind of the standouts of this. They do a really great job. I think Kinley does a really good job. She sounds very authentically like an actual little kid a lot of the time, which I think, definitely one of those things that I think is often hard to do. So, super kudos to her. I mostly know Adam from doing, a shonen protagonist kind of role, so it was really fun seeing him play this, empathetic older brother who's, suffering but also trying to hold it together because he's I'm the man of the family now. I gotta be strong for everyone.
Soda kind of fits into that whole Zack Fair kind of character arc where he was supposed to be the main character but he died before he could be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why an actor like Adam MacArthur works really well for a character like that. You sometimes do have these characters who, if they had lived, they definitely would have been the main character, but they don't, so they can't be.
Yeah. There's definitely an alternate reality where Slam Dunk's about him.
Yeah.
And his basketball career. Yeah.
But yeah, overall, these were some of the strongest performances, I think, of the entire dub.
Absolutely. Just absolutely standout stuff.
Yeah.
Not that I want less basketball in the movie, but again, these four could have easily carried the movie by themselves if that's what the movie was.
Something I should have mentioned up top when we were talking about the dub itself is it's actually really impressive how the film has to dub two types of animation in this too. The fact that they go from 2D to 3D so much. And 3D is not easy to dub. It's not too hard to dub with this kind of 3D as opposed to something like Lupin the First, but it's still not an easy task, so hats off to the crew for being able to pull that off.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, dubbing this feels like it was just a challenge just because there's so many moving parts.
Yeah.
What is it? I remember there was a bit they were talking about where during the basketball scenes, the opposing team had this cheerleading block that's just chanting constantly.
Yes, defense, defense, defense.
And apparently what they ran into was, they had them chanting, but they also had all the additional sounds they were kind of making.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently all that was on the same track on the Audio Master. So when they dubbed it, they basically had to find English chants that they could kind of lay on top of it so that it did, you know, it sounded like it was in English, but they wouldn't lose all the additional like sound information, because otherwise they would have to like completely drop it or recreate it on their own, which like they recorded that stuff in like an actual gym in Japan. Like it would have been very difficult for them to like remake a lot of that.
That's actually really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, this is the fun when you're dubbing what is in your country a little bit of a niche movie, and on the other where it's from, it's like a series I've seen credited for making basketball popular in Japan, period.
Yeah, imagine going to a basketball gym and saying, hey, we need to record for this anime.
Yeah, exactly. You know, in Japan, like, gyms are, like, fighting over who gets to be the one that gets to be in the slam dunk.
Right.
We can put a plaque on the wall if we do this, guys. We gotta hop on it. All right, let us get to the first of our two teams, then. We shall now talk about the Sano Kogia high school team. Our big bads, our rivals, the reigning champions of high school basketball in Japan. First up, in jersey number 7, we have Masashi Kawata. He's the guy who's basically hassling Gory the entire time, like the big guy.
I almost feel like we should do this like we're announcing them. Number 7!
Number 7, it's Masashi Kawata. He is a big tough dude who basically zeroes in on the big tough dude on our team and is like, I'm gonna make your life hell because I've decided that's what I'm doing this game. Number 9, we have Eiji Sawakita. He is the guy who basically spends his time harassing Rukuwa and basically like, oh, you're the ace of your team? Let's see about that, shall we?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. This isn't helping me identify them very much.
I know. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'll be honest. I took their jersey numbers down because it was easier to tell which shaven head.
That's
Japanese
the
guy am I looking at?
See, we kind of rag on shonen anime for like having wild-haired protagonists, but you don't really realize how useful that is until it's gone.
Like, aside from Kawada and another guy who gets some court time but doesn't say very much, so I'd include here his name, I forget. Like, they all have. Like, they're basketball dudes, so they're all kind of tall and lanky. And that does tend to make it a little difficult to kind of remember who is who.
There is one who's played by such an iconic voice actor that you have to recognize him, so...
He was really easy. I didn't have any trouble figuring out which one that was.
Yeah.
Next up, we have number 5. We have Masahiro Nobe. He's the guy with the big nose, basically. We have number 4, Kazunari Fukatsu, who's memorable for a reason we'll get to in a moment.
Not for his character.
Not for his character. We'll get to that. And last we have Minoru Matsumoto in jersey number 6, who I couldn't really think of a defining feature to tack on for him. Sorry, buddy.
They're not really that important. I mean,
they're very important as antagonists, but like we don't get a lot of inner life from these guys, at least in this movie. They're mostly the opposing team.
And that's not really a mark against the film. It's just hard to talk about is all.
Exactly. Like, this is definitely the section where, like, you get a lot of expressions, you get a lot of them doing little bits here and there. They're very important to the story, but from what we're reviewing, like, less to talk about. But who's playing these characters? Well, let me tell you. Kawada is being played by Daniel Walton, who's known for such roles as Biriki Jinai in Beyblade X, Chris Hotman in The Prince of Tennis 2 U17 World Cup, and he's currently playing Void in Undead Unluck.
Oh, neat.
Which I need to get around and actually start watching. Sawakita is being played by Alan Lee, who is known for such roles as Junpei Higuya in Kuroko's Basketball the Movie Last Game, Taro Komagawa in Goodbye Donglese, and he is, of course, Makoto Edamame Edamura in The Great Pretender.
Ah, yes. I like Alan Lee.
Oh, he's very good. We'll talk about that later. Nobe is being played by Jalen K. Cassell. Known for such roles as Osawa in Bubble. He is Okuyasu Nijimura in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable.
That's why I know him. Okay.
And he is Teppei Kiyoshi in Kuroko's Basketball. Fukatsu. You remember I told you there's one guy who's memorable for a reason that has to do with his character? Well, that's this guy, because he is being played by Johnny Young Bosch. And I definitely remember watching this in a theater and being like, oh, Johnny's in this movie. Good for him.
Yeah. That really was just a call like, hey, Johnny, we need a voice. Do you mind coming in?
Hey, Johnny, you want to be in a basketball anime? Yeah, sure. Why not? That sounds fun. I don't know if I need to tell you who Johnny Young Bosch is.
Yeah.
If you want a smattering of roles that aren't the obvious ones, I could tell you. He is Atsuji in Blame. He is 9 in My Hero Academia, the movie Heroes Rising. And, of course, he is Leo Fotia in Promare.
Right.
And lastly, we have Matsumoto, who's being played by Corey Yee, who is Ash in Code Geass Rosé the Recapture, airing now, I believe.
Yeah, I still need to watch that. I haven't watched it yet.
One day. He is Shogun Yoshimitsu Ashikagu in Inu-O, a personal favorite of mine, and he is the Beholder into Your Eternity. Yeah, I think what we were saying earlier, they're good at what they're doing, but this is not a team with a rich inner life we find out about in the moment.
I'm not trying to be an a-hole here. There's really not that much to say here.
No, I put them here because they're the opposing team, and it seemed weird to not include them.
Yeah, they're good. I think Daniel Walton is kind of the standout of this group.
Oh yeah,
because he has the most to say.
That's why I put him first. Partially, it's that he's a little more distinct looking than some of the other guys, but partially it's also
I can recognize him at least.
Part of it's just that his rivalry with Gory is some of the most compelling inter-team fighting as far as I'm concerned.
The coolest thing on the court, at least in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're good. They're all very good actors doing a good job in what is extremely unrecognizable roles. It's cast well. I'll just say that.
It's cast well, and I think the other one that maybe was not that it's dialogue, is if I have this right, is that when the game's over and the opposing team are kind of walking back to their locker rooms, one of them, I think it's Sawakita, because he's clearly the big deal hot shot on their team, has kind of a little breakdown in the hallway. Because
he was trying to beat Ryota because he had a personal vendetta against him or something, right?
I think something like that, yeah.
That's what I thought the movie was implying at the end there. I didn't quite understand what was going on.
No, there was definitely a sense of there was a pre-existing rivalry going on, and they went into this assuming we're the best team in the country, we're gonna win, right? That's a given, right? And he has a little breakdown, and he doesn't say a lot. It's mostly him being anguished. It's been a minute since seeing the movie, so I could be getting who's who wrong, but if it is, Alan did a really good job with that little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're still cool and stoic otherwise, having this very sudden just drop into actual sorrow worked really effectively, I thought. It not mean, but it was sort of a little moment of oh, these are real people.
Yeah.
In the context of the story. They're not just the bad guys. This is a team with their own hopes and aspirations.
That is something you have to recognize when you're watching a show like this is, don't treat these guys like they're bad guys, because they're just people who want to win, just like the team we're rooting for does.
Especially in a sports show of this style, which is, it's not as deliberately antagonistic. It's clearly much more of this is an actual game you can follow.
These are just guys defending their stasis, pretty much. And you can't really blame them for that. I mean, come on, wrestling fans, you guys understand this, right? So
anyone out there who enjoys sports as a kind of theater definitely gets this idea.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of my thought. It's you were all very well cast for what you had to do. You didn't have that much to do, necessarily, but you sounded good.
I'll say this about Kuroko no Basuke: they make their enemies more distinct looking.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Slam Dunk to know when these guys show up prior to this game. I know enough that they arrived late enough in the manga that this was basically the first time any of these characters were actually animated in any capacity. So I'm not sure if you read the manga, there's maybe a little more backstory to it, or how much of it's just kind of them being introduced as kind of they're kind of the monster at the end of the book. They're the big rivals that you would have to overcome.
Right. Final boss guys, yeah.
All the more reason to read the manga one of these days, right?
Yeah, or at least watch the anime. It's on Crunchyroll.
It's not hard. Yeah. And I think it's actually on, I want to say it's a TMS show, so I think it's actually up on TMS's YouTube channel now. I forget.
I might need to check that.
I forget who, but I remember seeing recently that whoever owns it has been putting it up on YouTube.
I'm not the biggest fan of TMS, but I gotta admit, they are making it easy to access their stuff.
They make it so easy to watch all their crap. I'll applaud that. If you like something they worked on, it is so easy to watch that legally these days. Right. That's really... Given how some Japanese companies treat their anime as, precious cargo that can never see the light of day, that is very refreshing.
Hell, TMS was one of those companies, actually, so...
Oh.
Yeah. These are all good actors. They're doing their best with what they're given, but I can't really... Hey, Johnny Young Bosch is here. That's cool. Whatever.
Hey, Johnny's here.
It's Johnny Young Bosch, everybody. I don't know.
We love Johnny Young Bosch, don't we? Yeah.
But yeah, no. I mean, it's good, but it's not distinctive. That's all I can really say about it.
There's definitely a feeling of let's hire a bunch of good, talented actors because they will do a good job even if they're not given a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, that is a skill.
Who can all sound like they're in high school.
Yeah, that too.
I know Johnny Bosch really wants to play Johnny Joestar. He actually told me that personally, which is cool.
Is Johnny from one of the ones that hasn't been adapted yet, or is that one of the ones?
Yeah, that's the next one.
Oh, okay.
Is Steel Ball Run. Well, I mean, he was Jonathan, so when I went to his booth at Anime Ocean City, He was just like, I hope they ask me back for Johnny.
Hey, if Kira Buckland's dreams can come true, here's hoping that Johnny's can come true too.
Yep.
Because that would be great.
I think he'd do a better job as Johnny, honestly.
I believe that. All right, do we want to talk about our protagonists?
Sure.
Let's talk about our protagonists, the Shohoku High School basketball team. In jersey number 7, we have Ryuto Miyagi. He is our protagonist of this movie. He is a relatively late addition to the team in the manga. He doesn't show up until like chapter 50 or so.
Really? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, him and the guy I'm about to talk right after that. Like, they are not. The other 3 are basically like the original trio from like the very beginning, and they're relatively later additions.
Because even I know that Sakuragi is like the main character.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how true this is, but I have read a claim somewhere that when the series was originally being planned out, Miyagi was supposed to be the main character, but because, like, when this came out, like, juvenile delinquent stuff was still very popular.
That makes sense.
They kind of made, like, the juvenile delinquent guy who's going to be on the team kind of the viewpoint character instead. I don't know how true that is.
That's how Kuwabara became a character in Yu Yu Hakusho.
I don't know that for sure, but I would believe that, because one of the things I love about Kuwabara is he has no business being in this supernatural fantasy action show.
And he just kind of rolls with it, too. He's not too fussed about it.
That's why we love him. Miyagi, he's from Okinawa, he's had a hard life, but he is good at something, and that thing is basketball. For himself, and for his brother. The slow reveal of why he's wearing 2 sweatbands, I think, is like a nice, subtle part of that movie.
Yeah, okay.
What that significance means. Like, I think that's a very well done part. Next up, in jersey number 14, we have Hisashi Mitsue. He is another relatively late addition. He hasn't come around until sort of chapters 50-ish. He basically used to be the leader of, like, a gang on campus.
Okay.
Like, I think he had a vague interest in basketball, but he wasn't very interested in being on this team because he didn't think they were very good.
That's why Miyagi and Mitsui get scenes together, I guess, in flashbacks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It becomes, like, a point of contention. I think he wants to, like, kind of pick on the new guy.
Okay.
And then they end up getting into a big fight, and Mitsui's like, all right, I respect you now. I'll be on the stupid basketball team. And cut my hair.
That's how this works.
And I'm curious to know, actually, if this is because we also learned that they apparently met when they were much younger.
Yeah, there's a flashback scene of that, too.
I don't know if that's from the manga directly. I don't know if that is something where, like, they know they met each other previously, or kind of one of those, a weird cosmic coincidence that is important in their lives, but they never really realize it kind of a thing.
Right.
But his thing is basically he's like a free throw expert. You can put him at the 3-point line, and he will just sink those suckers all day long. Next up, we have Kaide Rukawa. He's basically the ace of the team. Like, he's really fucking good. He knows that, and you better respect that, because he does not like to share the ball. He's the big dog that you gotta feed, basically. As I think I read Shaq somewhere once put it.
Right. I'm the greatest.
Exactly. He's very good, he's very standoffish, and he has a big honkin' rivalry with the guy in jersey number 10, Hanamichi Sakuragi. He's easy to recognize. He's got red dyed hair. He used to be a juvenile delinquent, and apparently, prior to the beginning of this series, he had been rejected in love 50 times.
Right. That's apparently the precedent for this whole series, I read.
He met a cute girl, and she said that she liked basketball, and he should try out for the basketball team, so he did to impress her.
I mean, look, it's not a dumb origin for an anime or anything like that. It's just, you would never get that from watching this movie, that's where this all started from.
Like I said, after I watched this, I've read, like, the couple, like, first 2 or 3 volumes of the manga, and it's funny how much, like, the early volumes are much more of, like, a comedic early 90s Shonen Jump series.
Right.
Like, there's a lot more humor in it. It's very funny compared to this, which, like, you know, isn't bereft of jokes, but it's much more of a sports drama.
Yeah, it's way more, like, based around the actual character drama than just comedic moments.
You can tell because he shaved off his silly pompadour.
Right.
I haven't read the manga enough to say, but I honestly wouldn't be shocked if around when that happens, like, the comedy recedes a little bit and becomes more of a relatively serious sports anime. Like,
but also this is supposed to be, like, set in current year, so why the hell would he have a pompadour in the first place?
Is it supposed to be set in the current year? I can't remember.
It seems like it is. Well, I mean, look at Miyagi's haircut. That is not the haircut of a boy from the 90s.
That is true. That's a very contemporary haircut.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, because I always get distracted by the fact that if you look at their uniforms, it's like, hey, can you guess what year it was when this was started?
Right.
I'll give you a hint. Go look up what the Chicago Bulls jersey colors are and tell me if you can see a resemblance.
Right.
So very clearly from the Michael Jordan era.
Stop it. Get them help. Sorry.
And last but not least, we have Takenori Akagi. He's not the manager, but he is the unofficial leader of the basketball team.
Right.
He's a big guy. He's a big go-getter. He wants everybody to like get in line and take this seriously, which leads to him butting heads with Sakuragi a lot, let me tell you, because Sakuragi thinks he's hot shit if he doesn't know a goddamn thing about basketball.
Now, I may regret asking this question later, but I have to ask.
Sure.
Is he supposed to be partially black?
I don't know. Like, visually, that he...
Because the actor who plays him in the Canadian dub, I looked this up, is also black.
I'm not sure, because I don't know that much about Slam Dunk, but, like, you're looking at him, like, I don't know if he's supposed to be biracial, but he definitely looks like he could be.
Like, what's his name from Bleach?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not sure, I haven't dug too much into, like, kind of the backstory of it, but, like, I believe it. The fun thing about him is that his nickname in the original series is Gory, for gorilla, because he's a big dude. And I meant to mention this earlier. One of the things I liked is that, that's not a meaningful nickname for most English speakers.
Right, that's kind of weird.
Exactly. So the one that comes instead is Goliath, which I think is like, that's some good localization right there.
It's especially funny if you're a Dungeons & Dragons fan.
All right, who's playing our protagonists? Well, let's start from the bottom, actually. Let's go from where we were to where we'll be. Akagi is being played by Aaron Goodson, who, welcome to anime, Aaron!
Hey!
Congratulations, I hope you do more of this stuff.
Yeah, you're very good.
Yeah, no, he's done some other VO stuff in the past. He played the character of Lyric in Need for Speed Underground.
Okay, alright, cool.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, he is in fact the actor who's based in Atlanta, who as far as I know, I think was done entirely remotely.
Alright.
One of the reasons I ended up making this connection is he is the narrator for what is a true crime series called The Real Murders of Atlanta, which I'm assuming is probably produced there.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, no, like, local talent, I'm assuming.
It's cool to see people in anime who aren't anime actors.
No, like, a thing that I think especially places like G-Kids have really taken advantage of in this day and age of remote recording is, expanding beyond the usual, like, LA, Texas, New York City acting pools, and taking a lot of advantage of the fact you don't need to have to fly someone out anymore to get a good recording and a good performance. You can just do it over the internet if you need to. Case in point. Next up, Sakuragi is being played by Ben Balmaceda, a favorite of mine pretty much entirely because he plays Raido in Arahen-san wa Hakarenai, where I think he is just the best. One of the funniest actors I've ever heard. Other roles of his of note are Albert Heinlein in Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Freedom, which is just a funny name to me. Albert Heinlein, okay, nerds. And he's currently playing Andy in Undead Unluck, so good for him.
Okay, so a few actors from that. Interesting.
Rukawa is being played by Alex Lee. He plays Gamma 1 in Dragon Ball Superhero. He's also Dennis Letter the 15th in Popel of Chimney Town, and he plays Seijuro Akashi in Kokoro's Basketball, the movie Last Game. So, one last Kokoro's actor for you.
That's funny. He was in the last Kuroko no Basuke and the first
Yes,
Slam Dunk.
There you go.
That's really fun, actually. Oh, shit. He was Neku in The World Ends With You. That's... Or no, sorry, Ben.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ben was.
No worries. Mitsui is being played by Jonah Scott, who's known for a number of roles, such as Subaru Okiya in Detective Conan the Scarlet Bullet. He is Akihiko Kaiji in Given, and he is Sniper Mask in High Rise Invasion, a trashy show of mine that I love very dearly and nearly.
Everybody's got to have their trash.
Exactly. I think the thing he's probably best known for is that he's Legoshi in Beastars.
My persona. Genuinely, I'm not afraid to admit Legoshi is kind of like me for real.
No, I get that. And last but not least, playing Miyagi, our protagonist, we have Paul Castro Jr.
Great name.
Right? Yeah, that's a great name. He is known for such roles as the Dragon in Bell. He is Hibiki Sakurama in Go-Go Loser Ranger, airing right now.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, that looks fun, actually. It's the boys with Sentai, right? Isn't that kind of the idea?
I think that's more or less probably the elevator pitch that works.
Yeah.
Like, I need to check it out myself, but that seems to be what they're going for. And he is also Marcos in Mobile Suit Gundam Kukuruzdon's Island, the movie remake of the worst episode of TV ever made, apparently.
Okay, that's... okay, alright.
Are you not familiar with this?
No, I'm not.
So, in original Gundam, has a number of episodes that are not very well animated, basically just due to, like, budget and time constraints. And one apparently is, like, I've heard it's not actually that much worse compared to some of the ones around it, but apparently there's one called Kukurodon's Island.
Yes, now I vaguely remember.
It's basically like it's kind of like a weird side tangent in the story. Like it doesn't really build on anything that's happening in the main storyline, and so it's just kind of like unofficially been taken out of syndication for many years. Like I think it's made a couple of like home video appearances, but it's kind of been like not really canon anymore. It's like we're not very proud of that episode. We don't like showing it anymore. And this movie is like an actually well-animated version of that little side plot.
Only Gundam could be the franchise to take a hated like aspect of itself and have the money to reanimate it.
Right? Oh, what a world. All right, who do you want to talk about first?
Oh, let's talk about the captain. Let's talk about Akagi.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron Goodson is great, especially for a guy who's never done anime before. He's a lot of fun in the role, and I hope we get to hear him more in other stuff.
No, I'm in full agreement. Like, he's great. I was actually shocked to learn this was not a more, like... Obviously, he's done VO work in the past. He's not, like, a complete newbie, but, like, I was sure this was going to be, like, seasoned anime VO people who, like, I kind of recognize sometimes, but I can never quite point them down until I, like, look up who they are. And it was kind of wild being like, oh, this guy's, like, brand new to this particular side of the field. Like, wow. Like, he's great. If you're a dubbing company and you have, like, you're okay with the whole remote recording thing, like, cast this guy in more stuff. He's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, nothing else, just, like, as far as the overall arc of the game goes, the stuff between Akagi and Kawada is some of just my favorite, like, one-on-one rivalry in this whole game, because, like, they just immediately lock horns as, like, the two dudes who are going to be a problem for each other. And watching them try and, you know, duke it out as far as their positions go is just great.
Yeah.
Like, Aaron just does a good job of just being, like the big tough guy who's serious, and, like, he loves his teammates, but he wished that at least one of them would stop being such a fucking idiot all the time.
Exactly, yeah. Pretty much all sports teams.
Yeah. It's like, he's good, but he makes you want to strangle him.
Yeah, no, just all around very good for a first time out.
Like, I'm hoping this is the start of a long career of anime dubbing. He's clearly got the chops, or just hell, like more VO work in general, I guess. Like, I'd love to hear him in just more stuff. Like, he's clearly a talented actor.
We'll probably hear him in some cartoons soon or something.
I hope so. Like, he's got the chops for it.
Yep.
Don't sleep on this, casting directors.
Well, he got to start a G-Kids dub. That's a good place to.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's gonna get some eyeballs on you. So.
All right, then I guess we'll move on to who's supposed to be the main character of this, Sakuragi. Balmaceda. Yeah, he's really fun in this. Like, he's definitely the most animated, I would say, of anyone in this thing.
Oh, yeah.
And there's kind of a responsibility with that when you're dubbing something that actually is pretty grounded and pretty serious the whole way through, when you got to be the comic relief. And, I mean, it is really funny to think that Sakuragi is the main character of Slam Dunk, but he's kind of a side character in this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's the Cars 2 of anime. But yeah, it actually kind of makes me wish, like we were saying, like they would redub Slam Dunk, because I'd love to see him actually take front stage.
If they do like a redub, a remake, anything, like I would be there like front and center from day one just to hear Ben play this guy. Like he's comedic. He's the most relatively out there character, and he does a great job of doing that, but in a context that makes sense for a like grounded sports drama.
Right. You could believe this guy would exist.
Exactly. He absolutely comes across as like, I don't know, I feel like Dennis Rodman would probably be the appropriate comparison.
Rodman,
like,
that's the name I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, no, like he absolutely comes across as like ostentatious, loud, etc., but in a way that I believe an actual human being behaves.
Apparently his haircut is based on Rodman.
At least at this point I wouldn't be shocked. The like non-standard hair color buzz cut is very much the thing I associate with Rodman specifically, so like I find that very plausible.
See, the thing is, even though these performances are great, they're not that much in the movie, because again, a lot of screen time is taken up by the Miyagi family in this.
And what isn't is mostly focused on the basketball game.
Right.
Like, you know, there's talking and so on, but a lot of it's basketball.
We get some flashbacks with them, and it's good. And actually, Sakuragi's short flashbacks near the end of the movie are actually a lot of fun. And he sells the whole back injury thing really well. It was actually making me genuinely tense watching that. Because I was just like, just get out of the game, you moron!
Don't fuck up your life.
Yeah,
it's just
you've got a good career ahead of you, man. Do not fuck this up.
Do not do that to yourself. You will never forgive yourself.
And it makes me wonder, is this like an Ashita no Joe situation where he does screw up his career or something?
I'm not sure. I'm not super familiar with what the epilogue to the series is.
Yeah, because I was almost thinking it was going to end with him dying or something. I almost thought...
He can't die because then you don't get the greatest low five in fiction.
Yeah.
To your point, like, I think he does a great job of being, like, the goofy comic relief guy, but then when that is happening, like, I absolutely buy, like, the drama of the scenario, even when it's just him, like, in obvious pain going up to the refs going, like, I'm going back in.
Yeah.
No, you're not. What are you thinking?
Take him out, coach! But overall, it was good, and I wish we could see more of him, because it's got to be weird when you get cast as what is ostensibly the main character of the series, but he's not the main character of this particular project.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably not disheartening, but it is probably strange when you find that out. You're like, oh, I'm technically the main character in this, but I'm not.
Sort of, but not really.
Yeah.
Again, I would watch a redub of the old series just to hear Ben play him. Like, he's perfect.
All right, let's talk about the meme lord himself, Alex Lee.
Yeah.
I love you, Alex. I know you don't know who I am, but I love you. Congrats on being Batman. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the typical anime guy for this one, so...
He's such a quintessential, like, brooding anime bad boy.
It is funny to think that the actor playing him is about to play Batman.
That's what I always find fun about Alex Lee is, I think the first thing I heard him in was, like, Demon Slayer.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah.
Well, like, it's just funny because I feel like since then, all the roles I've seen him in are things that he uses his much lower register, and so I constantly forget that, like, you know, it's the loud blonde guy from Demon Slayer, who also doesn't look like his voice should be able to go that low. Like, I definitely remember,
Yeah, we just talked about Alex in the Dragon Ball superhero episode, because he's one of the Gammas.
Yeah. Like, I definitely remember Dorohedoro coming out and like, what do you mean that's Alex Lee? What? You can do that? That feels illegal. It's actually, no, the better one is the joked video he posted to Twitter when that came out, which is like him doing the Kaimon voice, doing a Kermit the Frog impression. I know it's impossible to find things on Twitter these days, but if you have not heard that, try and look it up. It's delightful.
I mean, he's everywhere on YouTube now, you know.
I know. Yeah, you know, it's probably been clipped up on YouTube somewhere, so go look for that.
If you're not seeing him, you're seeing Gianni Matrigano.
One of the two.
Sooner or later, we'll be talking about Gianni on this show, honestly.
Yeah, right? Place your bets now, folks. How long will it take?
It'll be before me, unfortunately, but whatever.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Nice. So, yeah, he's great. He fills the role very well.
Yep.
Alex is basically the guy you get when you need someone who can be very versatile in a role. When you need, like, either a lunatic or a cool dude, Alex is usually the guy you go to. And he's doing his cool guy voice for this one.
Absolutely. From the bit of the manga I've read, like, Rukawa has his own fan club. There's a bunch of girls who just hang around the basketball games just to watch him.
Of course.
He's oblivious to it, of course. He doesn't care about that. He just wants to play the game.
Girls love their pretty boy basketball player, honestly.
Absolutely. No, 100%. Yeah, no, like, he has, I don't want to say the least to do, but just, like, his character's type is being, like, really stoic all the time, so he is...
His stuff is kind of, like, steamrolled at the end of the movie.
Yeah. I think because a lot of it is kind of, like, structured via their relationship with Miyagi, and a lot of his backstory is much more wrapped up in, like, Sakuragi and so on, so he has some stuff, but, like, he has relatively less to work with. Alex still, like, I think he still does a wonderful job with it, though. Like, that's not a mark against him or anything.
Okay, Jonah Scott. Always good.
Jonah!
I feel bad I sometimes confuse him with Matt Mercer, but that's a testament to how cool of a voice he's got.
They are for better or for worse part of the, like, smooth, deep baritone voice brigade.
It all started with Troy Baker, then it came Matt Mercer, then...
No, he's great in this, and the thing I want to highlight is, like, part of Mitsui's, like, arc is just that he clearly gets winded a lot more readily than the other guys do.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was a really interesting part of his character.
I don't know if that's born out of anything in the series, or just, like, his flaw as a player is that he just gets taken out just way more immediately. But, like, the efforts that he does in this, I think, are just really impressive, because you can definitely tell a lot of time that he is way more tired than everyone else on screen. He does a good job of capturing that part of the character, and I also just really love his speech where he talks about, like, no matter how tired I get, when I hear that ball go into that net...
That was a cool moment. That was genuinely a really cool moment, yeah.
No, that was, like, that's why I love sports. That rocks.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that feels like something a real athlete would say.
Absolutely. Oh, man, I sink that three-pointer, like, I can go again. I can be running on fumes, and I will have the energy to keep going, because, like, hell yes.
Yeah, I don't mean to keep being a broken record, but these guys are all doing good stuff with the little that they've got.
Yeah.
Once again, this is Miyagi's movie more than anyone else.
Yeah. I will say for Jonah, I liked a lot of his scenes with Paul during the flashbacks of them, like, having this sort of contentious rivalry. Like, in part just because it sounded very, like, sincere to, like, two guys who are good at something, and they clearly have big chips on their shoulders, and they butt heads about it, you know, directly and indirectly. I think their big rooftop fight is, again, like, a lot of what's good about this movie is that the expressions and the efforts and all the, like, non-verbal parts of acting. And I think, like, their fight is, like, really well done. It's just, oh, these two are really going at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a brutal fight. I was like, I could see Mitsui's, like, teeth fell out. I was like, oh god, this is intense.
It's surprisingly hardcore for, like, a sports show. Like, goddamn.
There is this. It really is. Like, the show starts as such a goofy comedy about goofy guys playing basketball, and then you watch this movie and it feels like it's a completely different thing.
Oh.
But yeah, Jonah Scott's always good. I always like hearing him. He's got a cool voice.
He's got one of those read the phone book voices.
Yeah.
Like, I've yet to hear him in anything where he, like, sounded bad, and, like, again, like, he's great here. I would love an actual, like, slam dunk show that could be dubbed that he could appear in.
Yeah, get all these guys back to play these roles again.
If the opportunity arises, like, this is your cast. No need to search any further. Like, these are the dudes.
Okay, the big guy, and by which I mean the small guy.
Yeah, small guy.
Paul Castro Jr. is excellent in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
He is extremely well cast as the main character for this whole project. He plays well being the older from Mitchell Taylor being the younger. Which I was honestly surprised they even did that, but I guess they wanted to make the dub feel more authentic. They didn't have Paul just doing a little boy voice.
No, a thing I do appreciate with a lot of G-Kids dubs is, like, I do feel like they... Like, I think in part because a lot of the stuff they get hired for, I think there is at least a, if not necessarily that, like, oh, this will find an audience outside of, like, kind of the usual anime people, but, like, it has the potential for that, and we don't necessarily just want to do, like, the usual anime stuff. You know, we have the time and finances, etc., to put a little more care into it.
Right.
Let's do that.
Especially because they usually only dub movies.
Especially in this, like, day of simuldubs, which... I don't know the back-end process of doing a simuldub, but whenever I hear about it, it sounds exhausting.
Yeah, I've never heard a good thing from any actors about simuldubs.
No, it sounds like, kudos to everyone who does it, but, like, it sounds like a horrendous pain in the ass. I'm sure getting to work on, like, a movie where, like, the whole thing you're working on is finished, and you get to have a self-contained thing to adapt. I'm sure for a lot of people, it's, like, that's already the thing they prefer doing anyways, and they relish being able to do that again.
Right.
No, 100%. I'm sorry, are you saying something? I can't remember if I interrupted you.
No. He's just very good in this. Like, he gets the most to work with here, and he runs with it well. I'm trying to think of any standout scenes. Mostly just the scenes with his mom.
Yeah. You know, for a sports movie, that familial relationship, I think, is a lot of the emotional core of the movie, and I especially think, like, the scenes he has with Allison are just some of the strongest in the movie. Like, there's so much going on between them that they want to say but don't know how to say. It's like, this is a really well executed movie, I think. Like, I'm kind of impressed by how much it gives the actors to work with a lot, even if they're not necessarily, like, in terms of, like, number of words spoken per minute kind of a thing, necessarily have a lot of dialogue. There's so much emotional richness they get to draw from.
I'm really trying to think of any scenes that really stood out to me. There's just a lot that goes on in this movie.
Yeah, no, there's a lot happening. One of the reasons I like basketball is that of your major, you know, sports popular in America, it's the one that has the least downtime.
Right.
And I feel like, weirdly, this movie kind of matches that. Like, there are not lulls in this movie.
And like I said earlier, it's like, halfway through the movie, I was like, this game is going to be the whole movie, isn't it?
Yep.
Which I've never seen a sports movie do that before. Where they just had one game be the whole movie. But, yeah, he fit the role very well. I think his voice fit Ryota extremely well. Like we said before, if they redub Slam Dunk or they dub a new Slam Dunk anime, just get this cast again.
It's probably just dependent on, like, interest and has the music and effects track survived. I know I'd watch it. Like, these guys are great. Like, he's just wonderful. He's such a good grasp of the character. He has a lot of interesting scenes with so much of the other cast. he's really good in this. Like, he's not completely new to me, but this is definitely the kind of performance where, like, yeah, no, I actively want to, like, seek this guy's work out and hear him in more stuff. Like, he's clearly got the chops.
And I think overall, the thing I like about the Shouhoku cast is they all sound distinctive. I would say the two that sound the most are probably Jonah Scott and Alex Lee, but even then you can tell them apart. So it's not that close.
Yeah, they're in a similar range, but they sound distinct from each other.
Yeah.
Being like, baritone-y kind of guys. Yeah, no, this is definitely the kind of cast that you put together because you want to, like, even if you haven't seen them on screen much, you can just kind of communicate a lot of who they are just based on, like, the performance they're giving. And in that regard, I think, especially for this, where, like, there's a lot of backstory that's going to be mostly implied here that it's not necessarily important to watching the game you're watching right now, but it's kind of there. And I think this does a lot of good shorthand stuff of being like, this is who this character is. You've learned everything you'll need to know about them now. Right. Good luck.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I gotta say.
No, me too. I don't know. Final thoughts?
This made me want to watch Slam Dunk. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think pretty much all my final thoughts we actually did at the top of the show.
Yeah. That happens sometimes. Like, no, this stuff is great. I think this movie is great. I actually really hope...
It's a lot artsier than I expected it to be.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that stuck out to me when I first watched it, especially when I learned, this is Inoue, like, adapting his own work, and he's never done a movie before, and, like, this is a lot more, like, artistically interesting and ambitious than I was expecting.
Yeah. Apparently they experimented a lot with the CGI.
I believe that, because
this is just a Wikipedia skim that I did, but apparently a lot of the production was based around figuring out how to get the CGI to work.
I believe that, because, like, it looks really good, but it doesn't fall into some of the pitfalls you see in some 3D style anime stuff where they keep trying to use the same anime tricks that look awkward when they're not in 2D anymore. Mm-hmm. But it also doesn't have like the rotoscope quality to it either.
No.
But still manages to look very realistic. There's clearly a lot of effort put into the back end to make sure that the basketball looked really good.
Right.
Or even just like that bit in kind of like the final minutes where like the soundtrack just kind of drops away to just that ticking clock sound and everything speeds up a little bit.
Nuts. The sound stuff in the last scene was insane.
Oh, that's having that happen, and then the sound cuts out completely, and like you just watch to see if this basket is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it stays cut out until they have the high five. This is amazing.
This is definitely a guy who wanted to show that he could be a filmmaker.
I wouldn't be shocked. I've heard that a lot of I forget which if any of his series are still like running, but I know they've been periodically on hiatus. I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason he did this is like, I want to see if I can do this, and if I can, I want to like have something I can show to people to get more things made.
Right. Because he's probably got some stuff that he's never even made into a manga that he wants to...
Oh, sure. I'm sure if this is the kind of stuff he wants to work with, I'm sure he has ideas of, like, this wouldn't work as a manga, but it could work as a movie, if I made movies. Like, beyond that, I actually just hope he gets to make more stuff. Like, he clearly has he's an interesting director.
I mean, like you said, the man made Vagabond, for crying out loud.
Yeah, no, like, dude is... I think he's in, like, his 50s or something, so it's funny, like, this is his film debut.
Is he really? Wow.
Yeah, no, he's 57. He's pretty old.
Well, I mean, even still, though, at 57, he's been making stuff like this. That's some Kentaro Miura level prodigy shit.
If you showed me to this Raw, I would not have guessed this was technically someone's, like, directorial debut. This feels like from a much more assured director than that. Which, you know, to be fair, he's made, like, 3 really, like, big deal comic series over the past, like, 40 years. So, like, it's not like he's a complete newbie or anything.
Vagabond was a Dark Horse release, wasn't it?
Blade of the Immortal was a Dark Horse release. I think Vagabond was Viz.
Okay, all right. Vagabond seemed like the kind of thing Dark Horse would want to release, but
it's definitely a Dark Horse kind of story. I think I don't know how the connection is, but Viz is the one who ended up picking up most of his work.
I might be thinking of Lone Wolf and Cub too.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a Dark Horse release. You can tell because the English release has all those Frank Miller covers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but yeah, no. It certainly sold me on Slam Dunk. I think I'm definitely going to check out the show. And like we said, like, if they do another Slam Dunk project with an English dub, just get this cast again.
Yeah. It made me pick up the manga. I was like, hey, this rocks. I want to see how we got here. This is great.
Yeah. Mitchell Taylor will probably be too old to play young Ryota again.
You know what? I hope he at least gets to have more work.
Yeah.
He's clearly talented. Like, cast him in more stuff.
Oh,
people.
yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's a good guy. All right. Well... thank you all for listening. If you would like to watch the first Slam Dunk, it is available on Blu-ray from Shout Factory. I don't think it's it's not streaming on any of the usual anime streaming services, but you can rent it on your Amazon Primes and your Apple TVs. Any place that does that kind of thing will have it available for $3 or $4. I think, as we've probably told you, this is a great movie. Give it a watch. Great dub. Good movie.
It's actually pretty cheap on Amazon right now.
Even better. Go see it tonight.
No. I mean, the actual DVD.
Oh, just the DVD. Yeah.
It's like $20 on Amazon right now. I checked.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, go get it from wherever you want to get it, folks. You will not regret it.
You might be confused, but you won't regret it.
Again, all the more reason to either watch the anime or read the manga, both of which are now much more available than they used to be, so.
You would think a basketball anime would do well here.
It's the weird conundrum where, sports stuff has already had a much harder time catching on here for whatever reason. That's clearly changed a lot in the last few years, so I'm hoping this does lead to more eyeballs on Slam Dunk.
Because, girl anime fans are, really into sports stuff for some reason. It's very strange. Estrogen Brigade, I believe, is what TV Tropes calls it.
Oh, TV Tropes. Anyways, we are Dub Talk. We can be found on YouTube, where it's likely you're watching us now. We are also Podbean and your various podcast catcher of choice. Look us up there. You'll probably find us. We are also on Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, and Instagram. You can follow us on one or any or none of those platforms that you choose to keep updated. We also have a Twitch channel. It's been somewhat inactive recently, but I think there's some rumblings about getting some stuff up and running sometime in the near future. So, go follow us on there so you can get updated when someone starts streaming again. We also have a couple places you can donate to us to keep our show going. We have a Ko-fi page if you just want to do a one-time thing. You'll see a link for that down in the show description below. And we also have a Patreon, where if you give us enough money, you can get your name read out on an episode, like so. Thank you to our $5 tier, Marissa Lenti, Megan's mom and dad, and Michelle Travis. And thank you to our $10 tier, Anthony Brown, Carly Lesticow, Crimson Echidna, Julia W., Quinoa Soup, and Otaku Anthony. Thank you all so much for supporting us. We really appreciate it. Lac, where can people find you on the internet?
Mostly you can find me at Lac the Watcher on most formats. If you look up Lac the Watcher, you should find me pretty easily, especially on YouTube. My YouTube has actually been doing really well recently. Oh,
nice.
I recently just passed 17,000 subs.
Oh, hot damn, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, people seem to really like my dumb anime shit posts, so I'm just going to keep doing those. I got another one in the works right now. I should have it out by the end of the week. It's going to be Lupin the Third based. I don't know how well it's going to do, because mostly people just want to see my Berserk stuff, but I have to expand. I can't just keep doing Berserk all the time.
I mean, hey man, that's the way to do it, right? Bring him with everything.
I'm sure Michael Centurniclus has said the same thing. Yeah, no, you can pretty much find me at Like the Watcher anywhere. If you're interested in my VTuber persona, Lon Callwinter, you can find him on platforms like Twitter as well. I haven't really been streaming as him recently, but I really enjoy being the werewolf boy, and yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Still crossing my fingers that one day this show will be talking about me.
Hey, you clearly have the drive and the talent. I believe in you, man.
Thank you.
If you want to find me in various places, I am on Twitter and Blue Sky and co-host as Amon Duel US. Duel has 2 U's in it. I mostly talk about comic books and movies and whatever garbage is floating into my head, and I also like talking about music, which is why I have a dusty old song for you all. I'm sure there's a lot of basketball-themed music out there, but I don't know it particularly, so I just went with something a little more obvious that also happens to be just something I personally like. Back in the 90s, for reasons that I don't particularly understand why, what the Chicago Bulls decided to have a prog rock instrumental be their opening music when they came onto the floor for whatever reason, and that is a song called Sirius by the Alan Parsons Project, known for really good music and being a joke in the first Austin Powers movie. It's a great song, and if you listen to it on the album it comes from, it segues into the title track, which is probably one of my favorite songs they ever did, Eye in the Sky. It is sort of I would describe it as a creepy love song from the perspective of a security camera, is kind of the best way I describe it. I think it's really great. You should all go check those songs out. They are a fine time, and then check out everything else the Alan Parsons Project's done. They're a very good band.
Especially if you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan.
Yeah. And I think that wraps it up wraps it up for us. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening or day or whatever time it is where you are right now.
Take care, and come on and slam.
And welcome to the jam.
And welcome to the jam.
Rock over Boston, rock on Chicago. Good night.
Take care.